Before we get started with the awesome Sarah Wingfield of No Stress Pet Sitting, don't forget that on Thursday, August 25th, we'll start our Pit Bull series. We have some great guests lined up, along with some fun giveaways. So mark your calendars for Thursday, August 25th. Thanks, and on to the show.
This is Paw Print, an animal rescue community, episode 64. I'm Nancy Rhee.
And I'm Harold Rhee. Today's guest is the dynamic Sarah Wingfield.
Sarah is owner of No Stress Pet Sitting in the Gainesville, Florida area. She and her husband, JD, started their service in 2013. Sarah shares her journey of starting a pet sitting service, along with the ups and downs of running your own business. She also shares some animal stories, including her own dog Campbell and a surprise visit with a 5-foot python.
If you want to learn more about Sarah and No Stress Pet Sitting and see some terrific photos of Sarah and JD's family of animals, go to our show notes at thisispawprint.com/64. That's the number 64.
I am the owner of No Stress Pet Sitting in Gainesville, Florida, which is North Central Florida area, and we are a full-service pet care business. So we do everything for your pets, from their normal pet sitting visits while you're out of town to grooming, training, even small repairs for things that your dogs tear up.
How long have you been doing this?
We are in our 3rd year now.
Okay. And who's we?
Yeah, it's actually myself and my husband that do the business. So it's myself and my husband, JD. We met a few years prior to going into this venture. And a year before we started, we were talking about the business. He surprised me by proposing and said that if he was going to business with someone, he wanted to be married. So, so we started the business and a marriage all at the same time, and both are going great.
It's like your business is your baby in a way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny to it's a challenge to work with someone and spend your time with them 24/7, but it really brings out the strengths in both of us. We're able to complement each other.
So what do you think you bring to the table? What do you think JD brings to the table?
He would even probably agree and say that he's the go-getter. He's the blue-collar guy that gets the job done, does the hard jobs, deals with the difficult clients and the difficult dogs both. He's really the one that makes things happen. And I am the one behind the scenes coordinating everything, doing all the administration, all the invoicing, the websites, the social media. I'm the one that you don't really see everything that I do, but it's all there. And I do all the grooming, and he does all of the dog training. We help each other in those areas, but grooming is definitely my passion and specialty part of it. And he is really great with the dog training. He gets such a good response from our clients and their dogs. And he also does all the fix-its. So he's really handy and helps people come up with really great home solutions for their pets too.
So you've done this for 3 years. I guess in some ways you're veterans. In some ways it's still sort of new. I mean, what did you expect when you started the business, and how has it met your expectations so far?
We had no idea. We knew that there was a need in the community, which is one of the main reasons why we started the business, is because we saw the need for an option for non-traditional boarding. So most people, whenever they go out of town, the only options that they really have is either asking a friend or a neighbor, or taking their dog to a facility where they have to stay in a kennel or a run with lots of other dogs nearby. And different ones, they all do great jobs. And a lot of times the pet safety and everything is wonderful. The staff is very caring and passionate about what they do, but because of the overcrowding from the dogs, and certain dogs are very sensitive, they still don't do well in those environments, and it stresses the dogs out, which then causes other health issues, that come from that stress. And then the owners, when they get home from this great vacation, now they have to deal with the aftermath of an anxious, stressed out pet that may need additional care and things like that because of the separation and the place where they were. So we saw the need, but we had no idea how immense it was. We've over the 3 years, even though we're a small locally owned business, we've had to put our cap on our business 3 times in the last 3 years and saying we can't take any more clients yet. We now service over 75 different families here in our area all throughout the year, and that's close to about 300 pets.
Wow. So when did you, how many months or how many years in did you kind of feel like you hit either, break even or that critical mass?
That would probably be the beginning of 2015. So so after our first year, we started in 2013 at the end of the year. It was really funny because I spent all this time and we put up the website and got everything started and licensed and the insurance and everything done. And then it was a lot of sitting by looking at your phone, a lot of just waiting on that first phone call to hit. And we did some marketing and things like that to get our name out there. And so it was about 3 months of crickets. And we were both really worried about the decisions that we had made and if this was the right thing. Even though we knew the need was out there, it just wasn't clicking. And then we started getting into springtime, and that's when people really start, in Florida, that's when people start taking vacations elsewhere. So then the phone started ringing, and then those people told other people, and now we don't even spend any money on advertising. It's all word of mouth. We have about 90% repeat customers, so it's the same people take the same vacations. And we've seen pets grow from, puppies into adulthood and from adulthood into moving on. We're really part of these people's families and part of their lives, and it's just so cool.
We're talking to Sarah Wingfield of No Stress Pet Sitting in Gainesville, Florida. Any animal stories that really come to mind?
Oh, wow. We know so many. I never realized. I always tell people that in my business, really what gets me is that I think of it as a social life. Out of all of them, I would probably have to go with one of my own pets. That would be my dog, Campbell, who's no longer with us. But Campbell was a rescue dog. I got him from a local rescue here in Gainesville whenever I was 18 and I had just moved out on my own. I got my first apartment, and a few months later, I got my first dog. And he was with me for 13 and a half years. So all through college, all through my different jobs and cars and boyfriends and everything, he was my buddy. He was my best friend. And he was a German Shepherd, Border Collie mix. He was just awesome. And he was a terrible puppy. He destroyed everything because I didn't know as much as I know now. So we went through those trying puppy times together and learned a lot. And then as he got older, he just had such a sweet temperament and a gentle spirit. I mean, he was never one to jump up on people. He was never one to get in your face. Every time when people came to visit, they always commented how well behaved he was, how well mannered he was. He just really only, if you wanted to play rough, he'd play rough. But if you didn't and you just wanted to sit quietly, he would sit quietly. He was very attuned to people's moods and experiences. And as I saw that, I worked at a hospital at the time. And we had therapy dogs that were coming in and out of there. And I said, my dog could do that. He's cool like that. And so I looked into the program and actually got him. I did all the training myself. And then we took him in and got him tested. And he passed the CGC test, which is the Canine Good Citizen test. And so then he was able to come to the hospital with me at work. He got his own little ID badge. And we went up to the children's ward and visited the children, and to the wards that had the people that were either in comas or were unconscious, and kind of the interaction of the pets and stuff like that sometimes helps stimulate those senses. And we did that every weekend for many years. And he was just he touched so many people and just really opened my eyes up to what a dog can do, not just for their owners, but for a lot of people around them. And everyone that got to know him, he was so cool. And he would go with me everywhere to restaurants, and everyone would just love to just spend a few minutes with him. And he would just relax a room. I mean, he just brought everyone together. And we lost him about 2 years ago, and he had a stomach cancer, and luckily went fairly quickly. But he was definitely my best buddy and really showed me what a dog could be. I mean, to 100% what a dog could be.
Thanks for sharing that. What an amazing story about Campbell. What made Campbell special to you?
His calmness. I've always been a very passionate person, and even a somewhat dramatic person, I guess my friends would say. And he was just calm through all of that. If I was upset and yelling or sad and crying and stuff, he was just a rock. I mean, he was just so calm. And that's what made him be such a good therapy dog, is that, these people are in a sensitive time and an anxious time, especially small children and stuff. And although everyone wants a friendly dog, sometimes having a calm dog that just kind of eases their way next to you and sits down. And if you want to pet him, he's fine. And if you don't, he's fine with that too. He'll just sit there with you. That was something he did naturally that I did not teach him. He did that from the get-go. He would just come and sit next to people and just kind of put his side next to your leg. And then, if you wanted to he just allowed people to come to him and really broach that bond. And a lot of people that didn't even like dogs still liked Campbell because he was just so calm and just reassuring and just let people approach them on their own terms. And the fact that he knew that innately and that I didn't teach him that just showed me that all dogs are individuals and that each one of them has something to bring to the table. And he just brought that calmness in a stormy time, especially for me, in a busy time. He just really brought that peace.
Maybe let's rewind the clock just a little bit. Why don't you tell us about where you grew up, your sort of journey to this point?
I grew up in a very rural part of Florida. Originally was all my family's in Indiana, but by the time I was a little girl, 2 or 3 years old, my family moved here to north central Florida. So we're not near the beaches or anything. We're kind of in the middle where the rivers and the big oak trees are. And I grew up in a rural town that was mostly agriculture and livestock. Very small town. Our graduating class had 100 kids. And that was actually really, I think, important as far as animals. When I was about 7, apparently, I told my parents that I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Oh.
So I always had a thing for animals. I'm one of those kids that early on knew what I wanted to be, or at least where the type of thing I wanted to be. My mom was a nurse and my dad was a cop. And so I saw them helping people, and I knew I wanted to help people kind of like they did, but I liked animals better than people. And so I guess I kind of leaned towards the veterinary thing. And I was that kid that always brought stuff home. That like, here's a kitten that was at the school, and I brought it home. And there's a dog that I fed down the street. And so my parents were constantly trying to keep me from bringing more animals home, little squirrels with broken tails, and definitely all those things. But I learned a lot growing up in a rural community about it's different with pets. Pets in a rural community are treated like pets, whereas when you get to the more urban areas, a lot of times pet dogs and cats get like family members or like children, or even more so, as we would say, babied or spoiled. Whereas in a rural area, it's a little more of a practical outlook on life. And so pets are treated like pets. Dogs are dogs and cats are cats. The care is different for them. Like all of our cats were outside cats. And, a lot of times in a city, you couldn't imagine having a cat that just was roaming the streets. In the rural area, it's different. And also with that came a really close-up knowledge with animal behavior, because you get to see them acting a little more natural because they don't have the different restrictions that a city might bring on them. So we saw dog fights. We saw dogs kill cats. We saw cats have litters. We saw dogs have litters. I mean, as a child, I remember watching our cat. Every time we went to get her fixed, she was pregnant. Wow. My dad was so frustrated. But we watched every litter that she had and helped her go through that birth. Our father showed us how to help her go through that birthing process and set up a little area for her and help clean everybody up. And, if a kitten didn't make it, our parents kind of taught us about that. And I also saw that with livestock too on the farm. And the kids that work the farms, so life and death and the health of the animals and birth and all these really gritty things that you don't see from a pet store perspective. No. I really got that there's more to it than just fluffy. There's more to it than just soft and cute. There's a real grittiness that animals have that's natural and it's cool. And so I kind of grew up with that kind of more practical knowledge of animals, which I think gives me a different interpretation of certain behaviors and how I treat my animals. And it just kind of brings a practicalness to the table. And then from there, I got moved into business. Actually, when I started my career, I worked in an insurance office, and I worked as an executive assistant, and I worked in, like I said, human resources at a couple different businesses. So I really learned the administration side of things, and I got my degree in business and thought that's where I was heading. And then I remembered being 7 and I remembered saying that I wanted to be a veterinarian. And there I was at 28, nowhere near a veterinarian. I really kind of thought about it. And so I moved away, and I moved back here to Gainesville, where the UF.
Where'd you move to?
I took a little siesta down in the Florida Keys for about 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Just after college was done, I moved down to the Florida Florida Keys, and I spent about 4 years there just hanging out in the sunshine. Like I said, I kind of realized that I really had gotten far away from where I wanted to be. And so I moved back home, back to Gainesville, Florida, where the University of Florida is, and they have a great veterinary program here. And I got a job working at a veterinary clinic because I wanted to go ahead and kind of try it out and see if this is really what I wanted to do. And while I was there, I was looking into the finances, and veterinary school is very competitive here, extremely competitive, and it's expensive. And so I was like, well, this is going to take a few years, for me to get there. And I was ready to knuckle down. But while I was working at the veterinary clinic, I got to see what boarding was like. And we were able to house up to 50 pets at a time, cats and dogs. And the rooms that they're kept in, it was a veterinary clinic, so it's not like a doggy daycare or like an outside facility. It's all inside.
Right.
And so it's just cages and cages of kennels and kennels and kennels, and up to 30 dogs in one room. And you can imagine how loud that can get.
Oh, yeah.
Especially during feeding time, or potty time. And I got to see that, some of the dogs were cool with it. Some of the dogs, like my dog, Campbell, he didn't stress out about things. And so, certain dogs were cool with it. But a lot of other dogs, it was terrifying for them.
Oh, yeah.
Really was terrifying. And you could just tell, they wouldn't eat. They didn't want to leave. They would just huddle in their little, and I felt awful because the owners didn't see that. They didn't know, they went on their cruise to the Bahamas for their 4 days, and they didn't see that. So they didn't know. So it's not anything that they did wrong. It's just, they just really weren't aware of how their dog was or was not handling that situation. And those dogs would get sick. They get upset stomachs. They get diarrhea. They would, like loss of appetite, those kind of things. And those dogs also, because it's a busy veterinary clinic, the staff would take the dogs out twice a day, about 15 minutes apiece. And so that's for dogs that need a lot of exercise or that need some good run time or long walks. It's not the place for them. And I love that clinic, and they still take care of my animals to this day. So it's not that. It's just that certain animals require a different type of care. A lot of the girls there and the other vet students did some pet sitting on their own, and they would break out and they say, oh, well, we can come watch them at the house, no problem. And so they would set that up on the side outside of the business. That really clicked in my mind. And I was like, well, that's great. But like I mentioned, my first job was an insurance agent. And so in business. And so the business side of me clicked in and said, well, that's not okay, though. That's not enough. Because what if the pet gets injured? What if something gets broken in the house? What if someone forgets to lock a door? What if you don't get there on time? What, those kind of things. And that sort of when I said, just an individual is not enough. These people, these owners really deserve, if they're going to pay for a service, they deserve to have a full service and to have someone that they can trust and they can rely on that is always going to be available for them, and that is going to have insurance to protect their pets and is going to have a plan in place, protocol and procedures and those kind of things, rather than just a commitment from a college student. About that time, my husband, the restaurant he was working at closed, and so he wasn't working at the time. And I said, while we're both kind of free, let's think about giving this a go. We got so busy that I finally quit the job at the veterinary clinic and said, let's just go ahead and do this. So I'm not in vet school, and I'm not planning to go on to vet school, but I really love what I do, and it has really been so fulfilling.
Switching to animal rescue, any animal organizations that you have a passion for or that you're involved with?
Oh, absolutely. I've always tried to volunteer my time at any community that I'm in. When I lived down in the Florida Keys, I worked really closely with the Humane Society down there, which is an awesome little island spot. You can see the ocean from the Humane Society. It's really cool. And they have a really great facility down there. And but they also, because of where the location is, they have a very high thing of hurricanes and stuff coming in. So their emergency and evacuation plans are very well detailed. And so there we're in high need of foster homes, so that in the event that there's a hurricane warning, everyone comes, they grabs an animal from the shelter, from the Humane Society, and when they evacuate, they take that animal with them. And when everyone can come back home, then all the animals come back to the Humane Society. It's a huge coordinated effort. And so for the 4 years that I lived there, I did that for them. I offered to go ahead and take as many pets as I could out of the danger zone, so to speak.
And did you ever have to make use of that?
Only
of the
once.
emergency? Oh, really?
Only once, and actually didn't have to leave. I did have to go pick up some cats.
Right.
And I had the cats with me overnight, and then overnight the storm had changed, and so I was able to bring them back. So it was a close call one time, but it was their coordination was amazing on how they really had it planned out to the T. They gave everyone lots of warning. They provided all the crates and the kennels for everybody that needed it. They matched up people with the right pets, so you wouldn't be taking in an animal that wouldn't fit in your plans. And so that was cool. And I also spent a lot of time there helping socialize their cats. There's a huge stray cat population down in the Keys. And so I helped. Basically, they just had volunteers come in and hang out with the cats and get the cats used to being petted and brushed and held. That's where a lot of it started. And then when I moved back here to Gainesville, I was kind of looking for that similar opportunity. So I worked with Gainesville Pet Rescue here in town, and they are a rescue that is a foster rescue. So they have a facility that is open for adoptions on the weekends, but then the rest of the time those animals are in foster homes. And so I actually adopted Campbell from them, my first dog. I got him from Gainesville Pet Rescue. Cool. And then subsequently after that, fostered some cats for them as well. So I worked with them in the early years. And then most recently, when me and my husband got together and started the business, we both have a real love for pit bulls. And not just pit bulls, but any of the big doofy dogs. So with us, the bigger, the better. We have a Mastiff that's 115 pounds.
Yikes.
So yeah, we have a big giant baby. And then we have a pit bull that's about 60 pounds. And then we also somehow have a Schnauzer, standard Schnauzer. So
wow.
So we have a nice little house full, and all three of them are rescues. The Schnauzer is actually 100% full Schnauzer.
Sure.
And I got her from my relationship with the AKC. One of the ladies there works for a Schnauzer rescue, and they had this one, and I always thought Schnauzers were so cool and such neat little temperaments. And so we met her, and she fit in with our people. So Mo is our most recent adoption. We've had her for about 8 months now. She's 3 years old. But yeah, we love the big doofy dogs, the big old blockheads and just muscly and silly. And so we've both owned pit bulls before, and I had Staffordshire Terriers, which are like a small size pit bull kind of. And so we found this local rescue when I was working at the veterinary clinic. We provided the veterinary care for a rescue organization called Plenty of Pit Bulls. And so Plenty of Pit Bulls would come into our veterinary clinic, and they would provide the veterinary care for any of these dogs that needed it in order to get them ready for adoption.
Wow.
And something about that just was so cool to me, is that this organization, they're a nonprofit organization, but they were able to raise the funds not just to pull the dogs and find them a home, but they pull the dogs and they get the dogs really ready for a home. So it's not like you just go to the shelter, here's a dog, here's a pit stop, no pun intended, but here's a pit stop, and then now you're onto your home. No, these dogs go through a health screening. They go through whatever veterinary care they need, any skin problems they might have, any health problems, any heartworms, anything like that they need. And then once they're ready to go, they go to a foster home. And that foster home provides them with crate training, basic obedience, getting used to being in a home, getting used to being around family and children and other pets, whatever they're good for, whatever that pet is attuned for. And then they go to adoption. And I just thought that was awesome. The amount of effort that Plenty of Pit Bulls really puts into making sure that this dog is 100% ready for a home, and that the home that he goes to is the best fit for them. The closer you get to North Central Florida, to the more rural farm areas, you definitely see a lot more pit bull mixes. And you also see a lot of hounds here. You see a lot of hunting dogs that went rogue or got lost and then had puppies with some other dog. And even our pit bull that we have, Griffin, he is a hound pit bull mix. So he looks a lot like a pit bull, but he has these kind of longer, skinnier legs. And he'll talk back to you and stuff like that. He's very vocal, which is similar to a lot of hound dogs. So yeah, a lot of hounds here from hunting, a lot of pit bulls, and definitely Chihuahuas. Luckily, we're in an area here in Alachua County that pit bulls are allowed. There's a lot of places down in Miami and stuff where you cannot own a pit bull.
The breed-specific legislation, okay.
Yes. Yeah, and I believe I'm not sure if it's all in Miami-Dade, but all down in that area. I've heard that quite a bit, that they're not allowed there. But luckily here in North Central Florida, there's not any breed restrictions for the county-wide area. You still run into some problems with housing. Certain landlords and homes and stuff and insurance won't allow you to have a pit bull. Same thing, they won't allow you to have a Rottweiler either, or a Doberman or a Chow, or there's pit bulls are not the only ones that are on that negative bad list, but they are one of them. And so there's still some problems with finding homes, and Plenty of Pit Bulls has to deal with that. They're really great that they work with educating the community and educating the landlords to be able to work around those rules and stuff like that. Like I said, a lot of these are not pit bulls. A lot of them are mixes. And even though Plenty of Pit Bulls is the name of the organization, they take in lots of different dogs.
Sure.
I was at a local adoption event because they pull from, what I learned is they actually pull from 7 different counties in the area. So not just our county shelter, but all the surrounding counties also. And they just pull off of the euthanasia list. And so if there's a dog that's adoptable, even if it's not a pit bull, they still pull it. I recently met an awesome lab mix that was really cool. That was at the last adoption event, named Joey, and he was adorable. Looked like a big chocolate lab, and he's awesome. But they've taken Chihuahuas and other little dogs too. So even though pit bulls are their passion and their specialty, they do take any of the dogs that are in need. And I just really like I said, the effort that they put into it. When we adopted Griffin, it was almost 6 weeks before we actually had him home with us, because of the process that we went through, the vetting process. He had to meet our other dog, and he had to meet us, and then they called all of our references on the application. They called our landlord. They called my work, and they really go through they really thoroughly vet their potential adopters and make sure that they're a good fit. And that just really, that makes them very successful, where you don't have these dogs that are coming back and being returned and stuff like that. So whenever they adopt for life.
Going back to your business, I would imagine lots of dogs and cats. Any other animals that you have to take care of in your business?
Definitely fish, no problem. Birds are no problem. Bunny rabbits. I used to own, I've owned everything from ferrets to snakes to, the only thing I say I feel a little funny about, I could probably overcome it, would be spiders.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like spiders. So.
Oh, so the tarantula farm is not going to be your favorite visit. So.
No, not my favorite. I'll send my husband to go do that one.
Perfect. JD, you got the spiders. Okay.
Yeah, he gets the spiders. I'll take the bunny rabbits.
All right.
But I don't mind the snakes and the reptiles. They're all very cool. The funniest one is that we a lot of times we run into people don't tell us about all the pets they have.
Oh.
Yeah, because we do charge per pet, because each one deserves a little care. And so sometimes people try to hide the fact that they might have another pet in the house. And they're like, oh, don't worry about those cats in that other room. They don't matter.
Oops.
Yeah, and if you hear a noise from the back room, it's kind of funny. So we tell people if they don't require a lot of care, we still need to know that there are pets around in the home so that we can check on their well-being and make sure that they're okay. If you don't want us to feed them or, something like that, if you want to just leave the food out, that's fine. We'll charge you less. We won't do all the extra stuff we might normally do, but we still need to know about them. And so the funniest one was a snake, a big, huge python that was probably a 5-foot python. We didn't know the snake was in the house. And so we get there and we go back to the cat room to check on the cats and make sure there's a big Great Dane. I love Great Danes. The big doofy Great Dane was there. So we hung out with the dog. We went back to the back room where the cats hang out and we checked on the cats and they were fine. And we looked down and they're sitting on this giant tank and there's this huge snake in there. When we checked in with them, I said, so we noticed you have a snake. What's his name? And I said, I explained to him, I said, what if we had gotten there and the tank was empty?
Yikes. Yeah,
I wouldn't have known that a snake, giant python had gotten loose and that your other animals might have been in danger.
How do folks find you, whether it's online, social media?
Yeah, the best place to get a hold of us is through our website. So if they go to www.nostresspetsitting.com, it's all one word together, no special anything. There's a contact page there, and if you fill that out, that gets directly sent to my email, and we usually answer those pretty quickly. So any service requests or any events or anything that are going on, you can reach us there. We're on all the social media, so on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you just go under No Stress Pet Sitting, you'll be able to find us there as well. We do try to feature. We have our Pet of the Month that we feature from our different clients and stuff like that. We kind of pick a favorite for each month, and we put them up on our Facebook Facebook. We also offer advice and information, anything that's happening in the news and stuff like that. We try to post those for our clients. So you can definitely find us there. And then I'd like to also say that if you'd like to donate to a good organization, you would check out Plenty of Pit Bulls here in Gainesville, Florida. And their website is POPB. So plentyofpitbulls.org. And you can find them on Facebook under Plenty of Pit Bulls also. And there's a donate link there. When we do our dog walks for the business, we use a GPS app called Rescue Walk. And Rescue Walk is really cool because for every mile that we walk with our dogs during the course of our business, they donate money to a local shelter. And you can pick any shelter that you'd like. So for all the dog walks that we walk, we use Plenty of Pit Bulls. And
awesome.
So every dog that we walk gets donated money to Plenty of Pit Bulls, and I would really encourage people to use that, and there's other similar apps out there. So if you're taking your dog on a walk, you can not just be good for their health and your health, but you can also be raising money for a local shelter.
What makes Rescue Walk your preferred one?
Because they have great developers. We have used about 3 other apps before we came across Rescue Walk, and they often crashed or didn't store information correctly and things like that. They just really, the apps didn't perform as well. And, you couldn't take a picture while you were on the walk, or then the app would close and it wouldn't record it right, and things like that. And I just think that Rescue Walk really must have great program developers because the app runs consistently. It tracks everything down to the mile and the time that we spend. And it's really cool because we can send that walk to the owners. So the owners get to see exactly how long their dog walked, what route that we took, how long we were there, the distance, and they know that their dog really got a good exercise walk in, and not that just someone stopped by for 5 minutes and patted them on the head. They can actually see the real walk, and they know the last time that their dog got taken out, so they can plan their day around that. So it's awesome for the owners to be able to get that kind of feedback. And then it's even more awesome that it also benefits and donates the money to the local shelters. They also run a lot of cool little events. Right now, they're raising money. So if you hit a certain number of goals walking, they're going to donate food to the local shelters and stuff like that, in addition to their normal donations. So they're just really, looks like their team is really on top of the app and keeping it current and keeping it running smoothly. So that's why we like them.
Awesome. If you could just wave that magic wand to improve animal rescue or anything else regarding animals, what would you do?
All right. Well, if I have to pick, I would say that I am really big on, I know people have their favorite breeds of dogs. I do too. Like I said, I love the big doofy dogs. I love the pit bulls and the mastiffs and the Danes and the big doofy guys. But just because you like a specific breed doesn't mean you have to go to a breeder or a pet shop. And so I would really like for people that if you're looking for a specific breed of dog, to go look at the rescue groups for that breed first before you go to a breeder or before you go to a pet store or puppy mill or something awful like that. There's so many awesome animal rescues out there that are breed specific, golden retriever rescues, Afghan rescues, Cocker Spaniel rescues, whatever breed you like. There's a rescue out there for it. And that might mean that you might have to do some transportation and coordinate to get that special dog. But I really would encourage people that if there's a specific dog that you like, to go look at the rescue sites first before going to buy that commercially.
We want to say thank you to Sarah Wingfield for sharing her story. Don't forget to see our show recap at thisispawprint.com/64. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a future guest on Paw Print, go to our contact page at thisispawprint.com/contact. If you want to listen to more episodes of Paw Print, you can use your favorite podcast app, such as iTunes, SoundCloud, Podbean, or YouTube. Find us by typing in Paw Print Animal Rescue. Make sure to hit subscribe to get the latest episodes immediately. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter by looking for This Is Paw Print, all one word. Don't forget, Thursday, August 25th, we'll be starting our Pit Bull series. We look forward to you joining us. And remember that you spread a positive message of love and peace by saving an animal. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time with another great guest on Paw Print.
Paw Print is a production of EVER Education.
You can't handle the truth.